So after 18 weeks of a regular season, the Eagles have now made the playoffs. And their first opponent, it's only the defending Super Bowl champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. No big deal, right? And to be fair, this is a very difficult matchup for anybody, not just the Eagles. It'd be a difficult matchup for any team. Going down to Tampa and trying to beat Tom Brady in his home field. That's not an easy task. But the Eagles may have an unforeseen ally in Mother Nature this week. Reports for Sunday are saying they're expecting a lot of rain, about a quarter of an inch, and 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. This is music to the Philadelphia Eagles' ears because the Eagles are the number one rushing team in the NFL. And when you run the ball in difficult weather, this is what the playoffs are about. Running the ball, difficult conditions, getting first downs, and doing what you have to do. While for Tampa Bay, they have an older quarterback, granted, greatest of all time. Nobody can dispute that. But it's very difficult to throw the football when there's a lot of wind and it's raining. It's going to be raining in Tampa. It's going to be a slick football. It's going to be tough for Tampa Bay, who likes to throw the football. Now, granted, Tampa Bay can run the football as well. Leonard Fournette is going to be available for the Buccaneers, but how close is he to 100%? We don't know. And when you look at the last matchup the Eagles and Buccaneers played earlier in the season, Tampa Bay did have some success running the football. Granted, Fournette's final stats weren't that gaudy, but he had about 20 carries and 80 yards. That's effective. That's effective, giving Tampa Bay some semblance of balance. Even though Tom Brady had a day, what else is new against the Eagles defense? But you have to remember, that was a different Eagles team that took on Tampa Bay. The Eagles back then were running a ton of RPOs. They were trying to have Jalen Hurts beat teams by himself. And when you look at the Eagles line was very mixed match then. Lane Johnson at the time was out for personal reasons. We know he was having some depression issues. He's now over those and doing well. Good for him. And Jordan Mailata was playing at the right tackle position, not the left tackle position. It's his more natural position. And he didn't have that great of a day on that Thursday night football game. Along with the fact you look at the Eagles' defense, they had Eric Wilson playing middle linebacker at the time. He's no longer with the team, and now they have TJ Edwards starting at middle linebacker, and the team has improved at stopping the run since his insertion. Now, granted, the Eagles weren't that bad stopping the run before TJ Edwards got into the starting lineup, but they have greatly improved since he's been inserted in, and getting Eric Wilson off the team also helped too. But there's not only changes for the Eagles, there's changes for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. Back in that Thursday night matchup, Tom Brady had all of his weapons, minus Gronk, but he still had Mike Evans. He still had Antonio Brown. He still had Chris Godwin. Well, some of those guys are no longer on the team or no longer available. If you saw what happened to Antonio Brown, he basically nuked his entire NFL career. So he's done. He's not even on the Buccaneers anymore. And then, unfortunately for Chris Godwin, he had a season-ending injury, so he will not be able to play in this game as well. And that leaves Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, Mike Evans is still a number one receiver, and Gronk is still a dominant tight end and one of Brady's favorite targets. I mean, you go ahead and look at some of the receivers Brady's going to be throwing to now. He's got Perryman, Johnson, Vaughn, Miller. I mean, some of these guys you haven't even heard of this season, because they've been behind all the Buccaneers' other weapons. Because when they had Chris Godwin, he was the one starting. When they had Antonio Brown, he was the one getting a lot of reps. Well, both those guys are now out. So Tom Brady's now not going to have his normal repertoire of receivers he's been used to the entire season. And that can cause some issues. Along with the fact that the field's going to be slick, the football's going to be wet, might be loose for a lot of people out there. It's going to be difficult because Brady likes his timing. He likes to have his guys going where he knows they're going to be. He likes having those guys he can trust to go make plays. With a rainy field and high winds, he may not be able to do that. And that could, if the Eagles play well enough, they could take some opportunities and make some mistakes on Tampa Bay, which is not normal for them. Along with the fact that the Eagles are able to force some turnovers, they get back on offense, they run the ball. They're the number one running team in the NFL. And if you could say, well, the Eagles haven't played any tough defenses recently. Well, in some recent games, that is true. But they're able to run on the Denver Broncos in Denver, no problem, no issue. And they also went ahead and ran through, at the time, the number one rush defense in the New Orleans Saints. If I'm not mistaken, the Eagles rushed for over 200 yards on that team. So the Eagles have shown that they can run on almost anybody. And with the line the Eagles are going to have in this game, at 100%, they're not missing anybody, everybody's going to play on that line, that's going to give the Eagles a big advantage in this game. But the Eagles have to take advantage of their opportunities. And in recent weeks, we've all seen that the Eagles have not been able to get to a fast start. They've not been able to score early and consistently. And that is something, if they don't do against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay is going to be up 21-0 before they know it. And this isn't, they can't just go down and be like, oh, we can come back on these guys. Look, you're not playing the Washington football team anymore, which in both matchups, the Eagles were down by 10 points and they came back and won. You can't do that against Tom Brady. If Tom Brady gets you down by 10, you're going to lose. He's going to make sure you're going to lose. He's not going to go ahead and miss opportunities. He's going to make you pay for every single mistake you make. And yeah, the ball's going to be slick for Tampa. It's also going to be slick for the Eagles too. Early in the year, we saw a lot of turnover issues for the Eagles. They really cleaned that up in recent weeks, but they had a hiccup against the Giants where they had 4 turnovers. Guess what? Wasn't really a ton of rain in that game. So now you have a torrential downpour. There could be risk of the Eagles losing the football a lot too. Which brings me to Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is projected to play in this game. It doesn't appear he'll have a cast. He appears he'll be 100%. The question is that hand going to be 100%? Because he broke his hand. He went and got surgery for it. It seems like it's okay. But is he going to be able to hold on to the football? If you remember the last game where he was off for a few weeks and then came back against New Orleans, he had 2 fumbles deep in Eagles territory. There has been signs that Miles Sanders has been too loose with the football. In a playoff game, you can't afford to have a fumble lost in your own territory. You can't do that. Especially against Tom Brady, who he has 2 great red zone weapons in Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski. The good news, though, for the Eagles is if Miles Sanders does have issues, they have Jordan Howard, they have Boston Scott, they have Kenneth Gainwell. They have guys that can handle the football and pick up the load if Miles Sanders can't get the job done. And Jordan Howard, this should be his bread and butter game. He is the type of running back who should flourish in this type of game. In between the tackles, tough running, ugly, muddy game, tough to get traction. He should be able to run over people in this game. And then there's Jalen Hurts. First playoff game, 23-year-old quarterback. Not a ton of experience, but he's been on the big stage before. He's played in national championship games. He's played at Alabama, Oklahoma. So he's played on some big college stages before. And the mentality and the persona he brings does benefit him in this type of game. The moment, even throughout the season, the moment has never seemed too big for Jalen Hurts. He always takes it one play at a time. Hey, it is what it is. We're going to do what we got to do. This is just another game. Even talking to the media this week, he played it cool, calm. He blew off some questions that were kind of stupid. But the fact of the matter is, Jalen Hurts doesn't seem to be intimidated by the moment. He just sees it as another game. And that is something that's great to see from a young quarterback. He's not nervous. He is not worried about the game. He's going to trust the game plan and do what he has to do. Along with the fact that he's going to be healthy. He had that injury against the Giants. He missed the Jets game. And then that ankle's been somewhat of an issue for him in a few games, but it hasn't held him out, and he's been effective throwing the football. He's going to have to do the same thing again this week. The good news is, with 100% ankle, the Eagles are going to be more inclined to call some quarterback runs, some RPOs. Give him some opportunity to make some plays, and he's going to have to make the right decision. And now Tampa Bay is going to have to worry about covering the read option for Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts at 100% is going to be a lot tougher to defend than Jalen Hurts at 80%. And that's not even including the weapons that the Eagles are going to have in this game. Remember, Dallas Goddard did not play in the first matchup. He got COVID that week, so he was out pretty early on in that week. And it ended up being the Zach Ertz farewell tour. That was Ertz's last game as an Eagle. Well, this time Dallas Goddard's going to be in this game. He gives the Eagles a different dimension at tight end. It's almost similar to having another Gronk on the side of the field. Granted, I'm not saying Goddard is Rob Gronkowski. He's not. But he plays of a similar style. Very physical, good blocker, tough as nails. That's the type of player Goddard is. And now Tampa is going to have to worry about him. along with the fact of Devontae Smith and these Eagles receivers. In the first matchup against Tampa Bay, granted, Tampa Bay secondary was beaten up. They're still a little beaten up right now, but the Eagles were able to take advantage of single coverage and go downfield deep. On 2 of the Eagles' touchdown drives, they were plays where Jalen Hurts threw the ball deep and Tampa Bay interfered with the receiver. So the Eagles were able to get a free 50, 40-plus yard play off a deep bomb that Tampa Bay committed a penalty on. The Eagles could do the same thing in this game too, but they're going to have to pick their moments. They can't just be throwing the football around like they did in the first matchup, because that's not going to get them anywhere. They've got to be able to run the football and play action off of it and make plays. If the Eagles can do this, they will give themselves a chance to pull off the upset. Now, there is some concern for the Eagles on the defensive side of the football, and it's been a concern for them the entire season, getting pressure on the quarterback. And the Eagles may be down a pass rusher this week. Josh Sweat has had an undisclosed illness. It's not COVID because he hasn't been on the COVID list at all. So we don't know if he's going to be able to play at this point in time. It's very up in the air, and some are saying it's likely he may not play in this game. He might be that sick he's not able to play. And right now, Josh Sweat is the Eagles' best pass rusher right now, on a team that really doesn't have any great pass rushers right now. I mean, your starting defensive ends could, if I'm not mistaken, very well be Derek Barnett, who's done nothing this season, and Ryan Kerrigan, who's had 3 tackles all season. I mean, that's who the Eagles are looking at possible pass rushers. And if that's the case, somehow, some way, Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are going to have the game of their lives. Because if they can somehow get pressure up the middle and force Brady in the move, that will give the Eagles a much better chance of winning this football game. Now, has anything similar to that happened all season? No. The Eagles have not been very good at rushing the passer this year. I think they're 31st in the NFL in sacks, which is horrendous. That is something the Eagles are going to have to get fixed in the offseason this year. But right now, you got to work with what you got. And that comes down to Jonathan Gannon. He is going to have to come up with the game plan of his life against Tom Brady. He's got to figure out a way for the Eagles to get some sort of pressure or give Tom Brady some sort of look that he hasn't seen or is expecting from this Eagles team. And the issue with Gannon recently has been, in the first half, he's basically played a shell defense, very conservative, very basic, and has let teams pick him apart. And that's what Brady did last time on him as well. He picked him apart. But in recent games, Gannon has shown that he was going to bring some blitzes. He has made some changes, and the Eagles' defense has played better in the second half. But against Tom Brady, you can't allow him to get going, period. Because you could have a 21-point lead. And then next thing you know, Tom Brady gets in a rhythm, and now you're down by 7. Just ask the Atlanta Falcons what happened. They know better than anybody. You don't let Tom Brady off the hook. But somehow, some way, Gannon is going to have to figure out a way to get some sort of pressure, make some sort of play. And part of that, I believe, is you're going to have to double Gronkowski. Let these unknown receivers of Tampa Bay beat you. If Mike Evans has like 3 catches, 15 yards, and Gronk has 4 catches for 20 yards, and the other Tampa Bay receivers go off and Brady beats you with those guys, hey, credit to you. There's a reason why Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. He makes anybody look great. If those receivers are able to beat the Eagles secondary, which the Eagles secondary has played fairly well this season, then credit to them. You just tip your cap and say, hey, good for you, good luck in the next round. But I'm willing to bet with rainy conditions, that is not going to be likely. It's going to come down to whether Mike Evans or Rob Gronkowski can make enough plays to keep Tampa Bay going. So now, let me get to my prediction. Before I get to my prediction, let me go over my keys of victory for the Eagles first. Then I'll go into my prediction. First off, key of victory is stay with the running game. There's a scenario where the Eagles come out first series or 2 and the running game isn't showing to be effective. And maybe you're down by a score or so. Don't give up on the run. Tampa Bay wants teams to give up on the run so they can pin their ears back and let their pass rushers go to town. Shaq Barrett's going to be back. Jason Pierre-Paul is going to be back. So Tampa Bay is going to have their full arsenal of pass rushers in this game. The Eagles have to have an effective running game to win this game. If the Eagles don't have an effective running game, they'll lose. Period. They can't play a shootout with Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay will win and the Eagles will basically lose by 20 if that's the case. That's what will happen. But if the Eagles can have an effective running game, get 5 yards a carry, get 4 yards a carry, have a consistent running game throughout this game, and keep Tom Brady on the sideline, that will give the Eagles a considerable chance of victory. Shorten the game. Make every possession count for Tom Brady, because one mistake from Tampa Bay could give the Eagles a victory at that point. So first key, stay with the running game, constantly run the football. Next key, defense. You got to get a turnover. You have got to find a way to give the offense an extra possession. And whether that is stopping them on fourth down, whether that's forcing a fumble from one of the running backs, or whether that's somehow you intercept Tom Brady. You have got to get a turnover in this game somehow, some way. You've got to give your offense another possession and find a way to keep Tom Brady on that sideline longer. The longer Tom Brady is on the bench drinking Gatorade, the better shot the Eagles have of winning this football game. That is imperative for this football team. They have got to find a way, get a turnover, and keep Tom Brady on the sideline. When you have 3rd and 15, you have got to be able to stop the drive right then and there. You can't give up a 16-yard completion. You can't give up a penalty. You cannot do that in this game. Otherwise, you're going to lose. And the final key to victory is Jalen Hurts, this is your moment. This is your moment to show me what you got. Are you going to come up on this big stage and flourish, or are you going to shrivel up? I want to see if he can actually do this. Personally, I think he's used to the big stage. I think he's going to have a Jalen Hurts type of game. I think he's going to play well enough. He'll run the football, make some plays, hold on to the football, protect it, and make the right decisions. He's done that on the second half of the season, and he's done a very good job of it for the most part. I think Jalen Hurts, you have to protect the football and make your plays when they are there. Don't worry about who you're going up against. Don't worry about if Tom Brady throwing like 4 touchdowns or whatever. Your job is to get the Eagles offense into the end zone no matter the cost, whether it's you running it in, whether it's you throwing it, or it's whether that's you handing it off. However the way we can get in the end zone, we got to take advantage of it. So now, moment of truth. Here are my predictions. Beginning of this week, before we knew about the weather, I felt like this would be a fairly high-scoring game for Tampa Bay. I felt like Tampa Bay was going to win this game fairly easily by the time the fourth quarter came. I figured Tampa would score about 30+, Eagles maybe 20 or 17 points, and I figured Tampa Bay would probably cruise to a victory. With the news of the rain and the wind, I think this considerably throws the game into the Eagles' favor. I could be crazy. You could call me a homer. You can call me delusional. By all means, I understand it. But I have a weird gut feeling that this game's going to come down to the fourth quarter. The Eagles are going to have an effective running game, and they're going to be the team that is able to run the clock out on Tom Brady. And Tampa Bay is going to go home. It's not a far walk for them, so that's good news for them. But they're going to be ousted in the first round. I'm calling the upset. I'm going to say the Eagles are going to be able to defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This isn't going to be a high-scoring game, I don't think. I think it's going to be a fairly low-scoring game. I think there's going to be turnovers on both sides of the ball. I think the Eagles are probably going to turn over it a couple times. I think Tampa Bay is probably going to turn it over a couple times. Whether that's their interceptions or fumbles, I don't know. It could be either one. I don't think it matters. I think both teams are going to turn this football over. But I think the Eagles' running game is going to do enough and wear down Tampa Bay's defense, who have not been as effective of stopping the run. Now, even if the Tampa Bay is able to get David back at linebacker in this game, I still think the Eagles are going to be able to dictate the line of scrimmage. They have this offensive line, when it's been at its best, has not been dictated to. The Eagles' line has typically dictated to the opposing defense. And I believe the offensive line, this running game, is going to be able to shorten the game enough. And the Tampa Bay is going to make maybe one too many mistakes, and the Eagles' defense will somehow capitalize on it. And I think the Eagles are going to somehow, some way, win this game by a final of 24-21. I think it's going to be a close game in the end. I think on the last drive, the Eagles will find a way to run out the clock and escape Tampa Bay on a miraculous victory. But that's just my opinion. If you agree with me, hit the like button. If you disagree with me, please tell me how so in the comment section below. And I will say this right now, if the Eagles do somehow win on Sunday, I'll go ahead in my review of the game, give my thoughts on the possible matchup against the Green Bay Packers. If the Eagles do lose this game and their season ends, I'll give my thoughts on the game just like before and talk about how I feel like the season has been for the Eagles and some future updates on the channel as well. With that, I want to thank you all for listening to the Process YouTube channel, and I hope you all enjoy these Wildcard playoffs this weekend. With that, I'll catch you all later. Peace.